staggering quarter in terms of what we saw on iPhone, specifically in terms of China. I mean, China, massive tailwind, services strong. I'd almost say best case scenario that you could have seen. The stock performance today, I'd say it's a massive head scratcher. I mean, this is one where I think this stock should be up 5 to 8% relative, to what they perform and the guidance. But I think it also just comes down to, and we've talked about it so much in the show, right? Is that what's the AI strategy? What's the monetization? Show us the playbook. That's not Cupertino. That's not their DNA. And I think that's why the stock's it's a little Larry David in terms of the reaction.
So how has it been, their AI push? Because they have faced concerns and they've really lagged behind their mega cap tech peers.
Look, I mean, they've watched AI from the stands. And I think that's been disappointing to many, including us, because you have the biggest install base in the world. You have 1.5 billion iPhones. But now it comes down to the Google Gemini partnership is the first big step. They're bringing in outside talent, which is, I think, unique to what we've seen there. And then this is what I believe is going to build into a subscription service. I mean, that is not being factored into the stock. And I just go back to like a year ago, look at Google. New York City cab drivers bearish on it. Now today they're doing ticker tape parades for it. You go back to Meta a quarter ago. Now look at it this quarter. So we're just going to go through this just very sensitive time for tech investors.
Looking at the Mark Gurman, Bloomberg News, his reporting today, maybe some concerns he's calling out about gross margins in the current period due to rising memory prices, also some supply chain constraints with the iPhone's 3 nanometer processor. Are all those things kind of suggesting to investors maybe we're going to have great sales, but maybe not the margins we're looking for? Is that an issue?
I think that's been telegraphed, but I do believe you have price increases when it comes to iPhone 18, we'll call it $100, $150. But Paul, I think like what ultimately is going to move the stock, like when investors are focused on how do you get to 325, 350? How do you have a stock with a 3 in front of it? It's not going to be sales, margins. It comes down to like, lay out the AI strategy, show us the playbook. And that's why like Cook's going to stay CEO, in my opinion, till that baton's handed, because this is so important, I think, to his legacy.
And what about how it's coping with tariffs? The company said that it created a $1.4 billion headwind. Have we reached the worst?
Yeah, I think worse is probably in the rearview mirror. And then look, that's why also playing nice in the sandbox in D.C. with Trump has been a huge positive. But it goes back to Cook, 10% politician, 9% CEO. So he's been able to navigate that extremely well. Now investors are, okay, it's go time. Show the growth catalyst. It was a huge step in the right direction last night. But you see like investors, and this is going to be a narrative in this tech earnings season, any blemish, anything investors don't like, they're going to take these stocks down. And we saw that with Microsoft and others.
Talks about China here, because that's been a big an overhang for this company for the last couple of years, if not more. What do you think the status is right there about China and Apple?
Well, I think it's a lot more positive today. I mean, go back, they were kind of in the middle of a sort of old Western fight between U.S. and China. Now, as those tensions have come down, that's been a huge positive for Apple. That's why Apple and Tesla are the two tech companies that are always caught in there. I think you've seen those tailwinds. Look, it's so important, 20% iPhone sales. You need that to be a market that's showing growth. And that's why you're seeing it. They're delivering everything you want to see, but the one thing that's missing, it's the AI strategy. And that, ultimately, that's really the hearts and lungs of what's going to be.
Why haven't they articulated a strategy? And maybe that strategy is, we're just going to wait, and we're going to partner with whoever we need to partner with, and that is our strategy. Have they said that, or is that not enough?
Look, it's essentially the last few WWDCs, it's been a Back to the Future Michael J. Fox moment, right? The point is, like, they've really been on a treadmill at 2.5 speed. I think part of it was like they were hoping it was going to be internally developed. That wasn't going to happen. They've probably been, I think, slow, and culturally, it's actually hurt them. That's why you're starting to see changes. And ultimately, they needed Google to win the DOJ suit for this to happen. If Google doesn't win DOJ suit, this partnership can't happen. Should they have bought Perplexity? Should they have done others? Of course. But that's why this is go time for Apple. And that's what the stock's reflecting. Investors are like, give me something.
And do you think that they have a chance in overtaking their peers?
Look, I think when you have the biggest install base in the world and you have a Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore CEO like Cook, you could be late to the game. But 2026, they can't fumble the football. This has to sort of be their moment. I think it's off to a strong start, but as we're seeing in tech, this is going to be much more highly scrutinized. You're not going to be given the sort of maybe latitude, just given this market.